Welcome back to Automotive Electronics. Today I have for you guys queued up a Cue screen repair. This is out of a 2014 Cadillac SRX Luxury Edition. Alright, so these things are notorious for cracking. They get these spiderweb looking things all in them. It's not the case on this one. This one, the touch is just gone. So we're going to get this apart and get it fixed up. Now, when you do these, it's going to come out with the two big brackets right here with these 6 screws in them. This one just came in like this, so this big bracket has already been removed. But the only thing there is to removing that is 6 7mm bolts. And what we're going to do is get after taking out all these little screws here. You're going to need a tiny Phillips, kind of tiny. This one, perfect. All right, nothing worse than Phillips screws when the thing won't stick in the head. Let's take out all these screws and take out all these little silver screws in the back here. Okay, so as you can see, we took out all the silver screws in the back, and you've got 2 on each side here, right here. When that is done, this will lift off, and you will be able to see the internals of this system. All right, you're going to want to get this bottom lower piece off here. Now, one thing that you're going to want to do is remove that little wire right there, so that will release with the or either that, or you can take these screws out and it'll just be floppy right there. Either way is acceptable. You've got 2 screws in here, then a screw here, a screw here. Oh, that one's missing. There's normally a screw there. Screw here. If you can see in here, there's a screw here. Oh, go find the little screw that fell down on the floor. Another one over here. We're going to have a lot of phone calls today. It's a Monday, and so you'll notice when you get all these screws out of here, you're going to have some that are a coarse thread and some that are a machine thread. While you're taking this thing apart, just take a mental note or take a notepad and write down which one was a machine screw and where it went, and etc. Keep organized. I've done a bunch of these, so therefore I don't have to be organized. I'm not going to follow my own advice on this. All right, this part, that was something I did without even talking to you guys. So this part right here, to get that bottom little glove box looking thing off, you just grab a hold. You're going to push preferably on something metal back here, and then take your thumbs and rotate that down, and that will rotate around and give you better access to the screen. Alright, flopping it over. Let's get a little less access so I get a better angle for a camera here. Alright, you're going to have 4 screws along this side, 1 on each side here, a couple down here, and 1 in the center. And that should release your screen. Before you do that, there is going to be a little hinged connector here. Let's see if I can get down in there where you can actually see what I'm talking about. It's not going to do a real good job autofocusing right here. And unfortunately, this is not a camera I have manual focus on. All right, there's a little black flap that comes up. You want to pop that little flap up, and then you want to remove this cable. All right, here, see if we can get a little more light on it. Well, I don't know if that's all that great of an exposure or not, but here's your little cable that you're taking out. That's what it looks like. And that little white connector with the black flap underneath it's where it comes out of. All right. I'm going to get all these screws out that we just talked about. This part's where you remove your screen. And you're going to want this as far out of the way as we can get it. So we're going to try to move this back out a little bit. And the screen's out. Once your screen's out, we want to get the new screen. All right, new screens. These come from Cue screens, Cadillac Cue screens or something like that. And if you see this little logo, that's where I'm getting mine. They make a screen that is universal across the old system and the new system. And they make several premium, high quality screens of varying degrees, and I haven't really found that it matters. I get the I don't get the super expensive one, I get the medium one. And I haven't really seen any need to get the super high-end one. You may have different opinion on that, and if you feel like spending the extra 50 bucks or so, I would go get it. The things I do know about this, okay? If your part number right here says, well, it's upside down, isn't it? Okay. So if your part number here starts with an 8, it takes the newer model screen. If a part number starts with a 2, it takes the older model screen. The other way you can look at this is by this cable here. All right, on the newer model screens, the updated screens, this will have this hex pattern here. Let's see if I can focus it even a little better. It's going to have this hex pattern here. All right, you definitely want to put the screen in that came out. So if your screen that is coming out has this other pattern where it's just a normal looking ribbon cable, then that's what you want to put back. If it has this hex pattern, will look like that on one side and that on the other, then a screen with this type of cable is what you want to put back. One more thing worth noting, okay, on these, the connector pads are on this side. The side with the pads is facing down, so when it goes in, let's get as zoomed out as we can on the microscope. When it goes in there, it's going to mount like so, with the connector, the copper pads down. All right, like so. It's going to mount in there like so. The little connector, you're going to slide that in and flop the little latch down on it. Okay, prep for these screens. Once you get ready to install it, you want to prep by taking off this inner piece here. This is going to protect it from fingerprints right now, but as soon as I remove this, it is not going to be protected by fingerprints. So when you're going to want to be very mindful not to touch. I've got it by the outside edges, not to touch the inside of that screen, or else you're going to have a fingerprint there unless you want to redo the whole job. Nobody wants to redo this whole job. Alright, the other thing that I would advise, this thing's kind of tucked in here. Alright, we do have a hex version going back in, the hex pattern version going back in the hex, where the hex one came out of. I advise getting that thing pointing straight up. Alright, take your screen, take your radio. This requires a little hand-eye coordination. There's a little slot that goes through here. You want to get that slotted right through there, nice and smooth. Alright, now you get you some screws in there to hold that screen in place. There's a little locator tab down here on the bottom of the screen. You want to try to get lined up into the hole. Not just now lined up, so we're good. I start with this screw all the time. Get that one seated. And most of the time, never fails when you're shooting a video that things are not going to go as planned. So these are aftermarket screens. And I'm guessing they're doing the best they can with them, but they're not always perfectly lined up. Just mess with it until you get it to where it'll seat in there. Get that screw in. Once you get that screw in, you can kind of let go, and you'll want to get a couple of these screws along the bottom end at that point. I would advise doing this by hand, not getting a screw gun after it. All the screws that go into the screen that hold the screen on are the coarse threaded screws. Now your screen is on. Next step is get that cable connected. Now that cable is going to come up. It's going to look like it's going to have a hard time connecting because it's pointing straight up and your thing is sideways here. So what you want to do is grab a hold of it with some tweezers. Oh, holy crap, I went the wrong way. Grab a hold of it with some tweezers. You're going to turn this clockwise. If you turn it counterclockwise, it's going to be upside down. Your screen's not going to work. Sometimes tweezers aren't the answer. Sometimes something with a little grip is the answer. Alright, you get it in there. Flop down your little clasp. It's a little bit tedious. I'll look at it. I don't think I got it lined up just right. So we're going to bring that clasp back up. Whatever you do, don't break your clasp. Because if you break your clasp, you're probably buying a new radio. So I don't know where the hell you would get another connector like that. So that's a pretty critical step there. Alright, so like I said, when your cable's in there, you want to rotate it clockwise so that you get the bend to go into that little connector. Now you can start reassembling the other pieces. This is going to go on here like so. There's going to be a lot of rotating around of this while you're working on it. And I leave that outside screen protector on. That helps out with the just helping to protect it a little bit more while you're doing the rest of the install. All right. While you're right here, might as well get that little cable. I took the cable off. It's a little difficult to get back seated in there, so you may just want to take these screws off. Can they see that? Yeah. You may just want to take these screws out and never disconnect this cable. That's perfectly an acceptable way to do it. Alright, our little cable is reattached. I believe that's just for the USB connection inside the glove box, but yeah, you're going to want that at some point. Alright, these are all coarse thread screws that I'm going to be putting back here. Don't drop screws down inside the radio. Another good pro tip. Okay, pro tip number two, you want to remember which one of these screws came out. It's kind of obvious when they're in there which ones you got to take out, but you may want to go ahead and circle the holes, you know, with your Sharpie, so that you know exactly where those screws go back. Alright, that would make it easy to get them back in there. Alright, so now we've got it up to this point. You can rotate your thing back to the closed position. Put your little tray back. Now you can go ahead and lay it flat. Again, another benefit of leaving that protective screen cover on. Alright. Reinsert all these screws. You've got machine screws going here. That's the fine threaded ones. Now these are the coarse thread ones that are going in next. Should be 5 of those. Alright, I would love to show you, so that's pretty much this job done. And I would love to show you, but I don't have the vehicle. I'd love to show you that it's working. And I also do not currently have a bench harness for this. I assure you I've done a bunch of these. This one's going to work just fine. However, if you've got an old Cadillac bench harness for this radio, probably just that one's all I need. Holler at me. I'll buy it off of you. Or if this helped you out, maybe you could just give me one. That'd be nice too. Anyhow, oh, one more thing to go over. So when you take these mounting plates off of the side here, the ones that mount actually to the car, it's real easy to get them off. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get them back on. You need to mark those right and left so that you know the orientation. And the way I get them back on is by angles. They don't just slide straight on for some reason. It's got to come in at an angle and then kind of rotate into place. So you'll come in at angles, rotate into place. And that's kind of pro tip number 3, is it? We're on the pro tip 4. Pro tip 4? Really? Damn, you got 4 pro tips today. All right, this one should be complete at this point. We do appreciate you guys watching. In conclusion, that's the complete job on those without, you know, outside of putting them back in the car, which is a job in itself. Out of the car, in the car is a job. Depending on which Cadillac you're working on, All these Cue screens are pretty much the same. You can, once you get them to this point where they're out of the car, they're all pretty much the same. Might be a subtle difference here or there, a couple extra screws in the screen, something. Nah, I don't think there's any extra screws in the screens but there might be some subtle differences, but you get the gist of it. Anyway, appreciate you guys for hanging out with me today. Get down there in them buttons and like and subscribe. It really makes a big difference to me, and appreciate you. I'll see you on the next one. Hey, if you like what you saw here today, get down there in them buttons, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to get advised of the new content as it's released. My name is John. We've been here in San Antonio for over 20 years fixing electronics. We specialize in automotive, but we definitely can fix any component level repairs you might need. The company is Automotive Electronics. You can look us up on Google's Automotive Electronics in San Antonio, and you'll find us every single time. Until next time, I hope all your repair attempts are successful. Hopefully you save yourself a little cash along the way. I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next video.